Welcome to Half a Point, the podcast that got absolutely brutally backdoored by North Melbourne. Terrible, terrible, terrible luck for us. They had 99% chance of winning, but couldn't even get the cover for us. But we'll get into it. We'll react to all that was round 13. But this week is our round 14 best picks episode where we'll each be giving our five best picks against the spread. To help me break it down, I am joined by my co-host, Carlton, superfan. Cuss, mate, how are we feeling?
Bit upset after that West Coast
Yeah,
game, but what can you do, mate? That's just what you expect from a bad team.
yeah,
So
man.
yeah,
We
against
always say
another
that.
bad team, maybe not,
Yeah,
but like,
we
yeah,
always say that's life. That's life betting on these bad teams. If you're new to the channel, please leave a like on this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're also active on TikTok, on Instagram, on X, so give us a follow on those. And also a reminder to please gamble responsibly. All right, Cass, let's jump into let's jump into round 13. It was a weird round. Again, we both went two and three, so disappointing weeks, but in the end, could have been worse, but also could have been better. So we land on two and three. You want your bad weeks to be two and three, and your good weeks to be four and one. So we didn't have one and four or no and five, so we avoided disaster. But yeah, still two and threes. But we'll jump into it. Western Bulldogs, Hawthorn, at Marvel. So I was on the Bulldogs here. Pretty bad pick, I'd say. It was a backs against the wall spot, I guess, for the Hawks. And I just thought the Western Bulldogs would just pile in the pain. Not to be the case. They looked pretty rusty coming out of the bye. But the number closed at like 20 and a half. So 14 and a half, I thought I was getting a really good number.
mm,
So yeah, I guess I was ahead of the market. But yeah, and all the money was coming in the Bulldogs as well. So I'm not sure if it was the public, probably the public as well coming on the Western Bulldogs as well. But yeah, the Hawks end up winning quite convincingly in the end. Adelaide, Brisbane, boy, I needed this one. In the end, looking back, like Brisbane, it would have been really unlucky if I didn't cover. Like they were winning pretty much all game, and they should have ended up winning. They like butchered all the opportunities in the end. They were up by 3 goals before, and they kicked five straight in the wet in the last quarter. Like I was like, man, like am I seriously going to get backdoored again here? Like,
mm.
but trust the numbers. The 8.5 covers. Yeah, pretty happy with that one. But then yeah, Richmond, Sydney, not great for us.
Yeah, not great. I think we were both on Richmond here, at plus 13 and a half.
Yeah.
So yeah, expected them to do a bit better than that. They were sort of in within the contest in the first quarter, but then just couldn't carry that momentum into the rest of the game and just slowly just kept fading away from the line. So yeah, a bit unlucky there, but yeah, like we said before, it's sort of what you get when you bet on these bad teams.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, moving on to Geelong and Gold Coast. So yeah, I wasn't on this
Tough
game.
watch.
Yeah, very
No,
tough
neither of us are on
watch.
this. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, Geelong ended up covering. I think it was a bit sort of bit back and forth. I guess when there's not a lot of scoring, it's not that hard. But yeah, it kept coming within under a goal. Eventually Geelong broke away towards the end of the third and then just like maintained that lead. So yeah, it was eventually a good win from Geelong. Glad we stayed away from that one.
Yeah, pretty unlucky, I'd
Definitely
say, if you're
risky.
on Gold Coast because it was a low scoring contest and you're getting 18 and a half, you still didn't cover.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gold Coast just doesn't cover as road dogs apparently. So yeah,
Mm. Yep, absolutely. Next up, we had GWS and Port Adelaide.
great pick.
So yeah, definitely a good pick. So jumped on Port Adelaide here at plus 21 and a half. And yeah, they were pretty much not in doubt here. After the first quarter, they showed some good signs. They were up for the contest. So yeah, I hope you didn't jump on GWS here. But if you did, unlucky. It was yeah, definitely the right pick to go with Port Adelaide here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. There was just something wrong with this Giants team, isn't it? Like I thought maybe they could have used the momentum from the previous week and they came back against the Tigers, but I don't know, they've just become a little bit soft and boring a little bit. They don't
Mm,
have that fast transition game using handball. They're sort of just kicking under pressure. Man, Sam Taylor and Buckley are like the best defenders in the game, man.
yeah.
But there's not much more they can do. But yeah, they're without those two, like this Giants team could be real bad. But anyway, moving on to North Melbourne West Coast, we said at the top, absolutely brutal, man. Like I can't believe. West Coast did not cover, man. They were $1 to win the game, and we were
Yeah.
catching 8.5, and they didn't cover the 8.5. So this one, like as frustrating as it is, you just got to put it aside and just be, yep, that happens. Bad beat sometimes. Um, if you're in positions where there's a 99% chance that you win, obviously you're going to win 99% of them. This is the one time that it didn't win.
Yeah.
So yeah, just keep putting yourself in that position. It's not the outcome sort of oriented. That's a good pick. Didn't go away. Move on to the next one. The next one was Carlton Essendon, and it looked like Carlton was going to
Ah,
pull away, but then what happened to your boys, mate?
yeah, mate. They had a 33-point lead at one point in the after the first quarter.
Yeah.
Looked like they were pretty comfortable. They were moving the ball so easily. There was a little voice in the back of my head, oh, maybe they might cut it down by a few goals, mate. We only won by 8 points. It was a close game in the end. It was so disappointing. Like, these are the games where like you're pretty much versing a reserve side here, and you just got to put away these teams. Like not I wasn't happy with it. Like finished watching the game and I closed KO. I was like, yeah, whatever. Like wasn't happy with it. But yeah, I guess I definitely unlucky if you're on Carlton here because I feel like it should have been an easy pick here.
Mm.
But yeah, Carlton being Carlton, you can't bet on Carlton here at all this season.
Yeah, man. Carlton's just been loser after loser, week after week. Melbourne, Collingwood, Melbourne plus 24.5. We were both on it. So great pick. Wasn't really in doubt, but I don't know, with how the week was going, I was like, oh, there's gonna be somewhere. I think we messaged each other. I was like,
Yeah.
how is Melbourne gonna stuff this up for us?
Yeah.
Just because we're both just like coming off brutal starts to our week. But we really needed this Melbourne one. Right pick in the end, yeah, emotional game. Obviously. And Collingwood, it was the top of the market for this Collingwood team, so fading them was definitely the right play. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
catching 4 goals here. The money lines were obviously live. Melbourne should have won that game. Like they dominated inside 50s
Mm,
again. They just butchered opportunities.
yeah.
But they were good enough to give us the cover there. So 2 and 3 weeks for both of us. So I moved to 35 and 30, 54% against the spread, and you moved to 34 and 31. So both above 500. We say pros go 56%. So we're right about there. Um, we need to bounce back there. We need to have a couple of good weeks here and give out some winners. Dogs went 5 and 3 against the spread last week, so kind of a good week for the dogs. So disappointing to capitalize on that, but that's because we jumped on a couple of favorites that didn't end up covering, right? So
Yeah.
we'll put it behind us. We'll move on to round 14 here, starting off with St Kilda versus the Western Bulldogs Thursday night game at Marvel. Last time they played was earlier on in round 6, where the Dogs were 10.5 point favorites, ended up blowing them out by 71. This time around, St Kilda are 20.5 point dogs. Where are you going with this one?
Um, yeah, this one I've decided to jump on Western Bulldogs at minus 20.5. Surprising pick, given that St Kilda as underdogs are probably more favored. I don't think like that's really been sold to me this year. Like I haven't really seen that as much as we did last year. And I also think last time they played, St Kilda were a better team and Bulldogs were probably not as good of a team. They were sort of still getting towards that peak. So I feel like I'm getting a good odds here. So yeah, I've decided to jump on Bulldogs here. What about you?
Give me the Western Bulldogs minus 20.5 here. I'm shocked you're on this as well. Yeah, we're fading Ross as a dog, which is really scary. Like I really didn't want to make this pick,
Yeah.
but this Western Bulldogs team just always manages to beat up on this St Kilda team for some reason. And they've just got the number. And like we see that in the league. Like some teams just have the wood over other teams, and that's just how it is. So I feel like this is a good number. I feel like this number should be 24.5. I feel like I'm getting half a goal to a goal of value here. obviously Western Bulldogs coming from really disappointing performance, and
Mm,
as I said earlier, they closed as 20-point favorites versus the Hawks, and now they're like laying the same number versus the Saints, who are a
yeah.
significantly poorer team. Um, Coming off a bye, off a win against Melbourne, maybe they're sort of still feeling themselves a little bit. Maybe they come out a little bit rusty, and the Bulldogs are coming out are trying to respond after a disappointing performance. So yeah, I absolutely love this one. Give me the Western Bulldogs minus 20.5. Yeah, don't mind the alternative lines as well. Moving on to Hawthorn versus Adelaide Friday night footy in Tassie. Last time they played, Hawthorn were also 2.5 point favorites and ended up winning by 66 at the Adelaide Oval. I think you were on that one last year, and I told you don't do it, and then they ended up blowing them out. This time around, Hawthorn are 2.5 point favorites. Um, Stay away from me here. Like I have like no real read on this game just because. The Hawks came off like they had their win that they needed to have, and Adelaide also had their win that they needed to have. Like prove it week against a better team for both of them, I'd say. Even though Adelaide were at home. Um, so yeah, like it's in Tasmania. The numbers are sort of saying Adelaide, but it's in Tassie. I don't know if Adelaide are going to go down to Tassie after a big emotional win versus the Lions and then go out and cover. I don't know if it's a letdown spot, but and also with Hawthorn, I'm not sure if it's like a letdown spot after their big emotional performance versus the Western Bulldogs. So uh, I'm gonna tip as in my tipping comps, I'll put in Hawthorn, just the home team. But yeah, no real read for me. What do you think?
Yep, I've gone with Adelaide at plus 2.5.
Yeah, don't hate it.
Um, yeah, I think it's sort of just about like who do I think is going to regress a little bit more. I think Hawthorn put out just laid everything out on the park last week against the Doggies who they didn't even expect to win that game. So for them to come out and perform like that, I think was like pretty strong from them. I just feel like they might regress a little bit. Um, so yeah, I've decided to jump on Adelaide here, but yeah, I can also understand just going with the home team here. Um, it's just minus 2.5, like Hawthorn favored. So yeah, you can't blame it here, but yeah, just going with Adelaide here.
Yep, fair enough. Don't hate it.
Mate, covering all these spreads makes me kind of hungry.
Hmm. Should we order something from the Cake Sorority?
Ah, yes, the cake sorority, where every cake is a slice of sisterhood or brotherhood.
Whether you're celebrating a birthday, anniversary, or a glorious cover, the Cake Sorority has a perfect treat for every occasion.
Shoot them a message on Insta at the cake sorority and use the code half a point for 10% off your next order.
That's code half a point for 10% off your next order. Your spread is covered with the Cake Sorority.
Moving on to Brisbane versus the Giants Saturday afternoon game at the Gabba. Last time they played was that famous semi-final game where the Giants were laying 4.5, but Brisbane came all the way back and ended up winning by 5, went on to win the premiership. This time around, Brisbane are 20.5 point favorites. We're going with this one.
Um, I feel like, well, actually, I stayed away from this one. But yeah, I felt like it was just a bit too risky for me. But if I had to, jump on a team here, probably GWS. I feel like their bounce back is just due. Maybe they probably won't win the game. But yeah, I feel like they are due for a bounce back, but we also know how Brisbane have been over at the Gabba. They're not really reliable at the moment. So yeah, it's not the fortress that it once was. So if I had to jump on a team, probably GWS.
I mean, yeah, man, after last week, who could jump on this Giants team? Me. Give me the Giants plus 20.5 and give me the Giants to win outright here. Absolutely love this pick. My favorite pick on the board. Everyone's written the Giants off now. I know I've said for a few weeks now that they're not looking quite right, but it's trading Brisbane at the Gabba. I don't know how many times you have to do it and how many times you have to say
Yeah.
they just do not cover at the Gabba as favorites. And also, there's this thing where teams who sort of think that they should have won a game, like they're sort of coming in sort of thinking that they won last week against Adelaide. I and like So that's the public perception as well, that they should have won. So I feel like I'm getting a great number here at more than 3 goals. This number should be just about 3 goals. I agree with the number, like that's a fair number, but I just love the spot for this Giants team. I feel like it's a little bit of a sleepy spot for the Lions coming back home after that game, after that sort of contest with the Crows there. So yeah, obviously it's a scary one because this Giants team just isn't the same. So I still have faith in them though. I sort of said all year that they can still win the flag. So I'm hoping that this is just the bottom of the market and they're one of those teams that are just going to surge in the back half of the season, like we always see it. The team that hasn't looked great in the first half of the season, just catches fire in the back half of the season. I'm hoping it's the Giants again. They did it a couple of years ago. So yeah, catching more than 3 goals. I love the points. I'm gonna put them to win outright as well. Yeah, so give me the Giants plus 20.5. Absolutely love that one.
Nice.
Moving on to Essendon versus Geelong Saturday afternoon game at the MCG. Last time they played, Essendon were 3.5 point favorites, believe it or not, last year. And Geelong ended up blowing them out by 45 in the wet, if I remember correctly. This time around, Essendon are 30.5 point dogs. Give me Essendon plus 30.5 here. Um, I'm really scared of this one. Like this is probably my fifth pick. Um, it's a big number, first of all. I think Geelong have covered like 4 in a row, but Essendon have also covered like maybe 3 in a row as well. So they're both sort of on hot streaks. I just feel like for Geelong, this is more of a fade on Geelong than a play on Essendon, but I feel like for Geelong, they're sort of looking ahead to Brisbane next week. And they had a big game against Gold Coast last week. So this is just that weird game that's in the middle. I feel like they just go to the MCG, get the job done, not a pretty way, and get out of there. They might even rest a couple of players. But yeah, so I feel like 5 goals with this Essendon team. I don't know, you could also say that they might get let down, might have a letdown spot after their performance last week. So it is a little bit scary, but I feel like 30.5 is a pretty good number. A little bit of money's coming in on Geelong, so that scares me a little bit. But yeah, give me Essendon plus 30.5. What do you think?
Yeah, love the pick. I'm going with Essendon at plus 30.5 as well. Sort of the same points. I feel like Geelong might use this week to sort of rest up their senior players a little bit. They're known for like their late withdrawals and whatnot. So, wouldn't be surprised to see if they like decide to
That's
rest a
not
couple
that's not
here.
actually good for us because then the number would actually no, sorry, it is good for us
No, it'd
because the
be
number will
right.
come down. Is there
Yeah.
any news on if Bailey Smith will play? I don't know.
No, I'm not too sure.
No.
I think they said he should be fine to play this week.
Right.
But
And
if it's just
But
soreness.
Durham's out though, so that's a big loss for Dons.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
that is true. Yeah. But yeah, I think Essendon they've got a bunch of young, hungry guys. And it's sort of like that Richmond side. They like to stay in the fight a little bit. It's sort of just that first quarter that we've seen the past 2 weeks where if they can sort of close that gap a little bit, they might be within a chance because I think both weeks it's been 40-7 and then 39-7. So if they can close that gap a little bit, they're well within a fight. So yeah, give me a sit in here.
Yeah, love it, mate. Moving on to North Melbourne versus Fremantle Saturday night game at Optus. So North Melbourne's technically the home team, but it's being played at Optus. Last time they played Fremantle were 13.5 point favorites at Marvel and ended up winning by 26. This time around, North Melbourne are 31.5 point dogs. Where are you going with this one?
Give me North Melbourne plus 31.5. I had North Melbourne down originally and then I realized they were playing at Optus and I was a bit confused until you explained to me why. But no, I think Fremantle are just on a bit of a streak at the moment. Like they've had a few good wins. I think the past 3 games they beat Port and Gold Coast and another team. So they're on a bit of a streak here. Maybe post bye, maybe they won't be like up and firing a little bit. North Melbourne, we saw what like they just didn't give up last week. And they found a way to win it. Does that mean that they regress a little bit? I'm not too sure. But it's a 5 goal line that we've
Oh,
got here.
yeah.
So yeah. So I'm pretty happy to go with North Melbourne here at plus 31.5.
Give me North Melbourne plus 31.5 here. Absolutely love this one. Great pick, I think. Um, I'm gonna play a bit of money line here as well. I think North are a live dog here. Using great odds, like above $5 here. So I don't know, Freo maybe coming off the bye a little bit rusty. North Melbourne had a really good last quarter last year, last week. As much as it pained us, I wish they had a great last quarter and didn't cover.
Yeah.
But anyway. But yeah, I feel like maybe they can use that momentum into this week. It's a second week in Perth, so maybe they've settled down a little bit. Yeah, I just feel like it's a really good spot for this North Melbourne team. And they have covered away from home as dogs. I think against Adelaide they covered, against Port Adelaide they covered. So yeah, they do have history this year. And they could be maybe we finally start to see that improvement. Maybe this is sort of the bottom of the marker for this North Melbourne team. As you said, we're catching a lot of points here. So yeah, fading this Fremantle team, coming off a big couple of weeks before the bye, sort of went into the bye sort of feeling themselves. Maybe they come out a little bit rusty here. So yeah, give me North Melbourne plus 31.5. Yeah, absolutely love that one. Moving on to a Port Adelaide versus Melbourne Sunday afternoon game at the Adelaide Oval. Last time they played, Port were 15.5 point favorites on the road at the MCG, and then only ended up winning by two. You were on Port that game, I remember. Terrible pick. And this time around, Port Adelaide are 2.5 point favorites. Give me Port Adelaide minus 2.5 here. Absolutely love this one. I just feel like it's a terrible spot for this Melbourne side. Short week going on the road after a big emotional loss versus Collingwood. A bit of friction in the change rooms as well with the post game with the Max Gawn and Stephen May incident. So yeah, this Melbourne team, they've played sort of well the last few weeks. I feel like you're getting a really good number for this Port Adelaide team who looked really organized last week coming out of the bye. They had like no rust at all. Coming back home now, I feel like it's a really good number. Maybe not, maybe Port Adelaide is that team. I know I've been hating on them for like a year and a half now, but I feel like I might start jumping on them here. I feel like this is the bottom of the market for this Port Adelaide team. Maybe they're the team that sort of maybe surges in the back half of the year. So I'm sort of betting on that a little bit. But if you think that team is Melbourne, then I guess it would make sense to jump in Melbourne here, catching points. But yeah, I feel like it's a good number. Give me Port Adelaide minus 2.5. What do you think?
I've gone with Melbourne at plus two and a half
Ooh,
and
okay.
to win outright here.
Yeah.
Sort of what you said. I do think Port Adelaide is sort of going to have that peak, but I don't think it's this week. I feel like they're just, I feel like they're just due for another home loss. And then after that, they'll just, get a move on and get a move on with the season. And bag a few wins. Um, I know what you said about like the whole Max Gore and Stephen May thing, but I don't think it's that deep. They're senior players; they'll know how to get over it. It's not going to cause. I don't think it'll cause that much friction. I know the media like to blow it up a little bit, but like our post game, I don't even think they really get cared that much. They were just like, yeah, we'll talk it out and it'll be fine.
Mate, that's
Um,
just sorry to cut you off, but that's Australian media with everything. Like
well,
I think
yeah,
I said this a
yeah,
few weeks ago. Like, in the NFL, like there's like a domestic violence case like every second week. It doesn't even make like the top of the run sheet at all. Like
yeah,
here, we have like, oh my God, Stephen Hawking went to Bailey Smith's house, and it's like a
yeah,
huge story. It's like Australian media is insane. Like there's like so
yeah.
little to report
They
on. But
love
yeah,
to blow
sorry.
it out of proportion.
Yeah.
But
Keep
yeah, I
going.
guess that's
Yeah,
what you get with this media. Yeah, so I'm jumping on Melbourne here.
yeah.
Like the look of it.
Yeah, okay. Opposing on this one, I don't hate the pick just because you're catching points, but I don't know. It's only 2.5, so you pretty much need them to win
Mm,
pretty much. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It'll be good. It'll be a good sort of pressure test. Obviously not too many
yeah.
games to pick from anyway. So moving on to West Coast versus Carlton Sunday night game at Optus. Last time they played, Carlton were 33.5 point favorites. I think that was in gather round this year, and ended up blowing them out by 71. That was their first win and cover for the season. This time around, West Coast are 25.5 point dogs. Where are you going with this one?
This one is a big stay away for me. I think it's a big stay away.
Yeah.
Um, sort of two ways of looking at it. Carlton have a history of sort of beating on this team. But then also it's West Coast playing at home as the underdog. They might be able to cover this. Yeah, there's not real any confidence with either team. I feel like they both can't hold on to the line at all. So yeah, just a complete stay away here for me.
Yeah, stay away from me as well, man. You're probably, I think you've been backdoored 2 weeks in a row for these West Coast teams, so
Yeah.
I understand you staying away from this. I'm staying away from this as well. Yeah, just like you said, you broke it down perfectly. Like West Coast haven't been great as home dogs this year. And this is the only home dog on the board, and we're both staying away from it just because of this West Coast team
Mm,
hasn't been the same at home. But then it's also Carlton. Carlton just don't cover at all this year.
yeah.
But they also beat up on bad teams. So it's a bit of a not really sure spot, I think, for the contest. Staying away from it. Yeah, I think it's fair enough. Again, let's just see if Carlton actually found something, or if this the same old Carlton.
Frauds.
Frauds. Oh mate, yeah, tell me about it. All right, that wraps up our round 14 best picks episode. Run us through your five casts.
Yep, so I've got Bulldogs minus 20.5, Adelaide plus 2.5, Essendon plus 30.5, North Melbourne plus 31.5, and Melbourne plus 2.5. So one favorite for dogs.
Yep, I've gone on Western Bulldogs minus 20 and a half. The Giants plus 20 and a half. Absolutely love that one. Essendon plus 30 and a half as well. North Melbourne plus 31 and a half as well. And Port Adelaide minus 2.5. So only three dogs and two favorites for me, but I'm not too mad about doing that just because it's a buy round. So less games to choose from. Obviously, that just means mathematically less dogs cover. Yeah, only seven games to choose from. So really tight squeeze. We're opposing on the Port Adelaide and Melbourne one. So that'll be an interesting watch. Could determine who goes 3 and 2 and who goes 2 and 3. But otherwise, hopefully, the Dogs, North, and the Bombers cover for us
Yeah.
this week. All right, Cass. Final thoughts before we wrap up here.
Um, let's just hope Carlton can carry the momentum to the season, man. I'm begging. I beg.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see if this Carlton team is going to make a back of the surge here.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for watching this episode. Please leave a like if you can. It really helps us out and subscribe. And until next time, see you later.